Hello and welcome back to a brand new BR stream. We are Pick a Side. My name is Drew. I'm with Drew. I'm with John. And today we are going to be talking about NBA free agency and giving our predictions, our hottest takes for where pending free agents will go, what new team they will go to or stay with. How you guys doing?
I'm doing great. I always love coming up here on Bleacher Report, and especially when we get to talk about basketball. These are some of my favorite conversations. But particularly when we're talking about free agency, this is some of the best time of the calendar sports year, truthfully. My concern with this free agency class is that it's really dependent on one player. John, you and I were talking about that before we came up here. But depending on how that domino falls, you really could trickle down to the rest of these teams and the moves that they make. But I'm feeling a bit pessimistic about it just because of the names that are available.
I feel like this is going to be an interesting free agent class. I think we've seen this playoffs, one of the biggest things, the deciding factors, and a contender going further in the playoffs is high-end role players. I think this free agent cycle will have a good mix of those guys
Very true.
who are on playoff teams that just got eliminated. A lot of them are going to re-up those guys to get back to the point they're at this year. But then we've got a couple of big-name stars that I think could be on the move, so I'm excited to be here, and let's dive in.
Hottest takes for NBA free agency, John. What's your hottest take?
My hottest take would have to be number one, Paul George going back to the Oklahoma City Thunder. This team has $35 million in cap space, but a couple of different players they can move to clear up some cap space. I think most notably Josh Giddey's salary and maybe a guy like Lou Dort. You look at the Oklahoma City Thunder, they just were the number one seed in the West. But I think this team needs a high-end starting small forward to pair alongside Jalen Williams. And as this existing trio of Chet, J-Dub, and Shea continues to grow, they need a complementary second shot creator, something we saw versus the Mavericks in their second round series. And PG to me would be a perfect fit. They started the rebuild by trading him, and I think they can finish this by adding him in as one of their top four players.
I like that a lot. Listen, Paul George was obviously the domino that I was talking about when it comes to the name that really can sway the different moves that teams can make. If he were to go back to Oklahoma City, you just add another scorer, another defender. I feel like that works out for them. But to me, what Oklahoma City needs most is a true five. Not saying that Chet isn't a true five, but he doesn't have the strength, doesn't have that type of frame to really be that solidified five. And we do have Hardenstein. We do have Claxton. That's kind of where I'm leaning. I feel like Claxton to OKC makes them a cheat code because you have the fact of Chet Holmgren being that roamer, being that shot blocker, but you do have Nicholas Claxton who can go and essentially switch on and guard 1 through 5. He's that talented of a defender, and it's not that big of a deal that he's not a floor spacer because everybody else on that Oklahoma City team can space the floor, including Chet Holmgren. If you bring in Nick Claxton to Oklahoma City, I'm writing them as my favorite to win the whole thing, truthfully.
I don't know about that.
I love Nick Claxton.
I don't love it at all.
But I love him in Brooklyn, building up that young core, Mr. Cam Thomas.
I get it.
Because Mr. Cam Thomas is a rising star.
But they're a lost hope at this point. If I'm Claxton, I want nothing to do with Brooklyn. This is my best chance to be on a dominant team and be a part of their young core because he himself is a young player.
Jordy Fernandez coming from the Sacramento Kings, assistant under Mike Brown. I have a lot of faith in him. Maybe this is my blind faith in just the direction of the Nets. I know that things always haven't been the best. Sure. I'm a big fan of Cam Thomas, and I think Cam Thomas really this past season, he averaged, 23 points per game, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. The rebounds and assists don't jump out to you. But I think he limited his turnovers, and this was the first year where he actually got a legit opportunity for a consistent stretch. And even that might be a stretch because Jock Vaughn was playing with him throughout the season with his minutes, and he was in an inconsistent role. I feel like if you give Cam Thomas a consistent role, this is what you're going to do. This is what we expect from you night to night. He can be one of the better scorers in this league, and I don't think they're empty calories.
He already is one of the better scorers.
He's a very streaky.
When you look at his start to the season, he gets to the rim at a high rate. He can hit pull-up jump shots at a high rate. The one thing in this game, if he can improve, is his three-point shooting.
Okay, you're just talking strictly scoring. Shooting,
okay. I think right now is a bit average, but he takes some really tough shots. If he can become a 38% three-point shooter, he becomes one of the more dangerous scorers in the league.
Yeah, there's really not a shot that Cam Thomas doesn't like. He really, if he just feels any part of him that he wants to put up a shot, he will. I think that he needs to make the game a little bit easier for him, not take as many volume of difficult shots. But where it comes to his game as a whole, I would like to see him improve as a playmaker because we really see little of that from him. But understanding, he is a pretty great scorer at times when he catches fire. Yeah, I'm with you, John. He is one of the better scorers, but the concern becomes a consistency basis with me and Cam Thomas.
He's a great scorer. I don't think anyone's going to deny that. The question is, like you highlighted, can he be a good enough advantage creator for his teammates for him to be someone you run your offense through? Can he lead in an efficient offense? And I don't think he can. I think he'd be a fantastic six man of the year, and even
That's not wrong.
I'm not done. Mm-hmm. Even a high-end starting two guard, I think he's currently a top 12, top 10, maybe top 10 shooting guard.
Somewhere.
But I don't think he's someone that's going to be the lead creator in your offense. Probably a third option, and that's pretty damn good.
I don't think he will be a lead creator.
Maybe a second option, but a third best player on a decent playoff team.
Yes, I agree. I feel like a player that fits similarly in the Cam Thomas mold, even though he's kind of grown out of that and he's proven he can be a winning player. I think it's Malik Monk.
Okay.
Malik Monk,
Fire transition.
I'm very high on him. Not only did I think he should have been sixth man of the year this year, with all due respect to Naz Reid, but Malik Monk led all bench players in points, rebounds, and assists. Naz Reid had the luxury of playing on a more talented team that happened to have a higher seeding. But when you look at both of their individual impacts,
Nas balled. Don't do that.
He did. But I thought Malik Monk was better, and I thought he was snubbed.
I agree.
Malik Monk, per 36, is 21-7. Mm-hmm. I think if he goes to a team where he has a bigger role, he's going to thrive. Maybe he might not be an all-star level player. Yeah. I don't think he'll be that, but I think he'll be an all-star caliber player. Like, he can have a type of season where if a couple guys get hurt, he can be a reserve. And the two destinations I love for him, number one is the San Antonio Spurs. I think Victor Wembanyama can use a running mate, can use another scorer next to him. I think Malik Monk is a plus playmaker as well. I think if he goes to San Antonio, it gives them a scoring punch consistently and a good playmaker. And the Detroit Pistons, I think the Pistons just need talent. They just need better players because right now I am not sold on anybody in their starting lineup outside of Cade Cunningham. I'm not sold on Jaden Ivey. I'm not sold on Jalen Duren. Because Jalen Duren, while his numbers look great, he's very reminiscent to me of Andre Drummond. Damn. And this is somebody that I was very high on. But when you look at his tape defensively, there's a lot to be desired. And he clearly is not advanced there yet. He's still very young and he has time to grow. But right now, I don't think he's just a shoo-in. He has to still earn his spot, and the defensive tape for him, he's a huge liability for the Pistons on defense.
Yeah, the two guys that you trust from the Pistons obviously are Cade, and I respect Desaro, though his offense needs refinement. That's not a question. But Jaden Ivey, finding him finding a role on the Pistons alongside Cade Cunningham has been a struggle for him. I do like Jalen Duren for obviously the size, just his ability to handle the ball for physical that tools. Size, of course, just a force, truthfully. That's well said. But if you go and you bring in Malik Monk, you're right. They just need some type of talent, and he can play alongside Cade Cunningham. But it's way more intriguing to me to go see him go to San Antonio for obvious reasons, playing alongside Vic. And, of course, let's respect Vassell, who I feel like is an underappreciated player in this league. For sure.
They're a really interesting team with the 4th and 8th overall pick. There are some reports that they want to move up to the 1st overall pick, likely to pair up Alexander Sarr with Victor, which would be crazy, on the defensive end especially. And I think they have to go and get an established score, because last year in the half court, this team was devoid of three-point shooting. They were devoid of shot creation. And in that backcourt, they've invested a good amount of late first-round picks. Malachi Branham, who had a decent second year. Blake Wesley, who hasn't been healthy, hasn't really developed. And I think with Trey Jones as your 6th man, you can plug in Malik Monk at that too. Then take a guard like
Topic.
Nikola Topic, partially torn ACL, could leave him falling a little bit in the draft. Maybe at pick 8, you can get that true initial lead creator and driver of the basketball, and then you have Malik Monk as your second option in that backcourt. I think that'd be the perfect fit for him long term.
Yeah, Topic with the partially torn ACL does sting, no doubt about it. But I still believe he'll be a top 10 pick regardless. If I'm San Antonio, to me, that's seamless. Yeah. I want someone that can play make, that can make life easy for my franchise player, and that's Victor Wembanyama. But if you bring in Malik Monk, you add extra shooting, you add just an explosive player offensively. That's a huge plus for San Antonio, who just needs guys that can put the ball in the rim.
I think I've been kind of propped up as the Pistons' public enemy number one because I'm critical of Cade Cunningham.
It does
and
seem
I understand
that way.
And it seems like I'm critical of the Pistons in general because I'm critical of Jalen Duren too. When you win 14 games, nobody's safe. Nobody is safe.
Cade's safe.
Cade is the only one
safe.
That's the only one that I say he's safe. But even then, I think while he has a lot of potential, a lot of it is projection based off people's draft expectations from him.
He was pretty damn great this season, too. I'd give him that benefit of the doubt. Also, after missing a full season of basketball. Yeah. It's like, I'll give him that benefit of the doubt.
I thought he was great, but I don't know if he's better than Tyrese Halliburton. I don't know if he's better than those guys.
Given the players on his team, I understand, one, why the usage is so high, because damn it, who else are you going to give the basketball to? On top of it, when it comes to his playmaking abilities, the guys around him simply are not adequate enough to thrive and allow Cade's numbers to be a lot better than what they should be. But even still, relatively efficient player for the usage that he does carry, where it's in like Luka Doncic territory.
Damn near.
Which is insane. But that's kind of the responsibility that has been put on him because he's in such a bad spot.
Without a doubt. And like you highlighted, the Pistons are a team that's been poorly constructed over the last couple of years. They bring in a new GM, move on from Troy Weaver. And one of the free agents that I could see them targeting this offseason is an older veteran, someone that is a first ballot Hall of Famer, and that's Klay Thompson. Someone that the Warriors would probably move on from for salary reasons. Also, considering the fact that Klay is going to start to age and regress more and more. We just saw him play his absolute worst in the playoffs. I think Klay Thompson's going to Detroit. And this summer, they're going to target as much floor spacing at the forward position, because right now you look at their starting lineup, you got Simeon Fontecchio, who's a free agent, and then Asura Thompson, who has some issues, of course, health-wise in the second half of the season. They really do need three-point shooting in the starting lineup to open up the floor for Cade, and also Jaden Ivey if they want to see how those two can play alongside each other.
Man, only if they got Keegan Murray, man. That would have been a perfect fit.
That would have been pretty awesome. But they wanted Jaden Ivey. So I mean, listen, hindsight so crystal clear 2020, but they wanted Ivey. Ivey was the player that the public, let me not say the public believed that the Kings would go with, but they went with need with Keegan Murray. Obviously, we know how that's worked out for the Kings. Keegan's been an awesome player and he's developed very well. But I don't know if I see Klay Thompson going to the Detroit Pistons. I don't know if the Mighty have fallen that much. To me, a team where I look at Klay Thompson as a potential destination, if not the Golden State Warriors, that would be number one for me. It would be the Orlando Magic, a young, upcoming team that just shown that they could be a top 3 defense in the league. But what do they need more than anything else? 3-point shooting. And I understand Klay Thompson wasn't his best self last season, but if you're the Orlando Magic, you take the veteranship because they have a lack thereof that, but you need the 3-point shooting. You have your future lead guard in Anthony Black. Didn't get a lot of burn this season, but I still believe that next season they'll look for him to get a lot more touches. But you need someone that could shoot the basketball at a consistent clip that's not just a Jalen Suggs. And I say that because this was the first year that we finally saw him take that leap 3-point shooting wise. But even Paulo, Franz, we don't have to even get going because we know he's not really a 3-point shooter at all.
Head down here.
Klay's realistic team to go to that is not the Golden State Warriors would be the Orlando Magic.
It's over in Golden State. I'm sorry, but Jonathan Kuminga's extension's coming up in a year. Moses Moody as well as a player they may have to extend. And if they want to extend Klay Thompson long term, they're damn near entering the second apron for a team that just missed the playoffs. I don't think there's a shot. Klay Thompson goes back to Golden State.
Is he still a $40 million man? The answer is no.
Not. He's maybe a $22 million a year
I think he's
player.
a mid-level exception player.
I was going to say,
not much higher than that. Is
he going to force the Warriors to pay him that much?
Why would the Warriors pay that money?
My point being, that's exactly what I'm saying.
The Warriors can replace him for a player that's a lot cheaper, and his name's Brandon Podziemski.
But you don't think that he would stay on the team for less money?
I think Klay Thompson wants to feel valued in this stage of his career, and most importantly, a team like Detroit's going to give him the starting opportunity. In Golden State, I think he would be a guy coming off the bench, and most importantly, I think for Klay in this stage of his career, he wants more opportunity. With the Warriors, they're filled with young players like Bods, of course, Jonathan Kuminga, and all these guys have to develop. Trace, another good example in the front court. And for those guys to develop, they're going to be taking away opportunity, minutes, and shot attempts from Klay. So for him to not feel valued, also underpaid from that team probably, yeah, he's going to want to go to the place that's probably going to overpay him a little bit. Detroit's got the money to spend and the desperate need. They'll probably pay him upwards of $37 million for 3 years. And then maybe he's thinking, okay, this is the place I'm going to finish off my career.
It's unfortunate for me to say this about Klay, but I think any team that pays him is going to make a mistake. If it's the Pistons, it's going to be a mistake. If it's the Magic,
I don't disagree.
I think it's going to be a mistake.
Magic, I can't see as a mistake. They need shooting. You have to take a swing.
Point in his
34
career,
years old.
I think he's a mid-level exception player. He's one of those guys that you go ring chase with another team. I feel like at this point in Klay's career, even though he doesn't want to feel valued, I feel like the best situation for him is you take less money and you go ring chase. You go to a team like Dallas, who could use some three-point shooting, where there's not going to be a lot of stress on you. You're going to get a lot of open looks. You take less money to go to a situation, an environment like that. Because if he goes to Orlando, he goes to Detroit, more so Detroit, he's going to get exposed.
Detroit, I can see that happening for sure because, like we've all been talking about the Pistons. They need something right now, and if Klay's going to have that opportunity, we see what happens when he tries to put the ball on the court a little bit too much. It just ends up resulting in a bad shot attempt. But I feel like with Orlando, I could see it working out where he doesn't have to have too much responsibility on ball, and similarly, he can sit in pockets, sit in corners, and still get open jump shots. But ring chasing's also not a bad idea.
I think that's the right thing to do, but Klay has too much pride to actually accept that. The perfect guy for the Orlando Magic to me is Anthony Simons. Somebody in the Portland Trail Blazers who are they're slowly starting to phase out. After drafting Scoot Henderson and Shane Sharp, there's a lot of young guards who need to develop. And I look at Anthony Simons' game, and I think it's perfectly suited for a team like the Magic, who are building a young core of guys all from 22 to 25 years old. And when you look at the defense they built with Jalen Suggs, most importantly, spearheading that unit, I think Suggs and Simons would not just be one of the better backcourts in the Eastern Conference, it would be the perfect fit alongside Paolo and Franz Wagner. It would ease the pressure on those two guys offensively in the half court, and I think Simons would break out in a place where he's getting the bulk of the shot attempts alongside Paolo as a 1B. Be perfect fit.
I mean, John, we've been talking about this for months now. We understand that they need a true scorer at the guard position. And we understand that they did just draft Anthony Black this past season.
How's he fit in?
But exactly. And as a scorer, we understood that he needed some development in that regard. Anthony Simons already understands how to play offense at an extremely high level and an extremely efficient level too. Does need to clean up the turnovers like I'm sure every lead guard would tell you that they need to do. But at the same time, if you're the Orlando Magic, you need shooting. Anthony Simons can go and give you that. You need playmaking. Anthony Simons can go ahead and do that for you. He's not the best defender by any means. Hell, you could argue he might be the worst defender at the point guard position. But when you are on the Orlando Magic, who have so many players that can mask that deficiency of his, with the offense that he gives you, to me, it's a no-brainer move. I would go and I would make a move to go and acquire him.
Anthony Black, 2 first-round picks, and Jonathan Isaac.
I'm not trading Jonathan Isaac. I don't even care if he's on a 20-minute restriction.
I agree with you, but you have to make it worth the Portland Trail Blazers' while.
Anthony Black 2 first, that's reasonable for me.
Why would the Blazers accept that when Anthony Black is a point guard? And they got Scoot Henderson.
Well, to me, he's really, honestly, more of an off-ball player in this stage. I think he's more of a 2-3.
Who are we talking about?
Goodness.
Anthony
Black.
He's better with the ball in his hands.
I'm sure every point guard would tell you that.
What is Anthony Black? He's a connector. And alongside Scoot, there may be an issue of floor spacing.
That sounds terrible. Together.
But I think...
I don't love it per se. The thing is, what would intrigue me the most there if I'm the Blazers is the 2 first-round picks. But if you go and you...
Those are mid-first-round picks.
Correct. That's exactly what it is.
17 and 24.
Listen, John, I'm glad you mentioned Anthony Simons, but he's on the team. He's not a free agent. And this a free agent.
You make a trade in free agency. You made a trade in free agency, yeah.
Huh?
You had a trade coming into this.
No, what was my trade?
I'll pull it up in 1 second.
All I'll say is I understand that it would have to be a trade because he has signed on for 2 more seasons after the end of this deal. But with that contract, he's getting around $25 million a year for the next 2. Mm-hmm. So if I am the Orlando Magic, making a trade for him in for the free agency period would not be a bad move.
We begun this stream talking about Paul George, and I think he is the biggest domino in free agency. I think Paul George has the most control of any player in free agency right now because whatever he decides to do, which right now we all believe is leaning towards leaving the Clippers and joining a team like the Sixers, or you mentioned OKC because they got cap space. If he leaves the Clippers, James Harden now looks at that situation and says, I can't win here. And we know that James Harden wants to win a championship before he retires. So now that's going to cause James Harden to leave. And now the Clippers have Kawhi with a roster that he clearly cannot carry at this point in his career.
Sure.
Kawhi Leonard has 2 options, in my opinion. Well, 3. He's either going to thug it out and play the season. He's going to request a trade. But if history has shown us anything, he wants to be in LA. He could just call it quits. Somebody who has had knee issues the past 3 years.
He just signed a 2-year extension, though.
with the idea that Paul George could be back and we will still have a contender around him.
A team trying to contend with the...
I think that the Clippers knew they're opening up a new stadium. They needed a franchise player. They chose Kawhi Leonard over Paul George. They gave him this 2-year extension. I don't know if I see Kawhi retiring this offseason. That would shock the entire world. Paul George leaving definitely is in the realm of possibility. You mentioned James Harden. That's another guy who you mentioned. If he doesn't see a contending team, he'll happily go and walk away. But I don't see a possibility of Kawhi Leonard potentially walking away from the game of basketball, especially after he just signed an extension.
If there's anyone that's going to pull an injury luck, it'd probably be Kawhi Leonard or Jokic.
He would have did it by now. He's been injured so many times in his career, but he still decides to come back.
I don't think he would have did it by now because the Clippers have had hope. I mean, this year they had hope. Like this year,
y'all believe
if they were healthy, they could have maybe made some noise. But next year, with no Paul George, with James Harden gone,
so where do you think James Harden's going?
I think Orlando Magic is the perfect destination for him.
Honestly, I really like that as a possibility.
I know we talk about Anthony Simons. You talked about Anthony Simons. He's more of a scorer than a facilitator to me. They need another scorer. And I think he has plus facilitating skills. James Harden, though, I think at this point of his career, is between two things. It's between trying to chase a ring and win a championship, or it's between being a mentor to a young up-and-coming team and kind of entering this Chris Paul era of his career.
OKC Chris Paul type shit?
Yes, where he gets recognized for his leadership that he's bringing to a young team. You look at a team like Orlando, Jalen Suggs is a really good 3-and-D point guard, but the facilitating is not there. The shot creation is not there. Paolo Banchero has to carry this entire offense. If James Harden can go to Orlando and he can be their lead facilitator and he can create shots and he can be an 18-10 kind of player, I think that's a perfect fit. With Suggs, Harden, Paolo, Franz, and Wendell Carter Jr., I think that's really good.
Look, I think he'd be a really nice fit, especially the more he's improved off the ball, but I just look at the Magic's most dire need, and you could say it's playmaking, but with Paolo and a little bit of Franz's playmaking gravitas at that forward spot, I really think they need that lead shot creator the way. You think of Jalen Suggs, I compare him to Marcus Smart early in Boston. You think of Paolo Banchero, similar to a young Jason Tatum. But I think they need that lead scorer the way Isaiah Thomas was. Someone that's going to drop 25 points per game on league average efficiency. And this stage of James Harden's career, he simply can't bring that.
You don't think Harden can average 23, 24 a game no more?
Not a shot.
Harden can average 19 to 21 points per game,
but
could potentially lead the league in assists and 100% benefit Paolo Banchero's future.
It's not going to be high.
To me, that's the biggest. Okay, the biggest need if I am the Orlando Magic, or biggest want, is progressing Paolo Banchero to continue to ascend as one of the best players in this game.
But wouldn't the easiest way to do that be by acquiring a guard who's an elite shot creator, opposed to an elite
James Harden
playmaker?
would just make Paolo Banchero's life so much easier.
Yes, but Anthony Simons wouldn't.
I agree. Not more.
Yes, he would.
Not more, because as a playmaker, it's night and day between.
I mean, Harden in Philadelphia was 21-11, and he played with an MVP and Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey.
But it's also 2 years ago, and the more James
Harden, it was. But this past season, he averaged 17-9 playing with Kawhi and Paul George.
And you also got to consider too the timelines as well. You want someone who's going to play into the prime of Paolo Banchero, and I look at Anthony Simons' game. It's in terms of his range, being able to make shots consistently from 28 feet, pulling defenders out 3 or 4 feet beyond the 3-point line, opening up the Magic's offense to a point where Paulo, as a short roll decision maker, would be such an electric fit, because then you've got a lot of kickouts to Jalen Suggs, maybe a guy like John Isaac if you're able to keep him. I think Anthony Simons just opens up everything in a way with his explosiveness off the dribble, his shooting off the catch, and off pull-ups that James Harden simply can't. He's just a more limited shot creator, and in that backcourt alongside Jalen Suggs, there would not be enough of it for their half-court look to be good enough.
But the difference is that you're trading for Anthony and you're just signing Harden.
Sure. So you want the guy who's 25 opposed to 34?
Well, you also got to trade multiple first-round picks. You're talking about Anthony Black. You're talking about Jonathan Isaac.
These first-round picks aren't.
Is trading Anthony Black that big of a deal? Is it a big deal?
He doesn't really have a role.
Anthony Black?
Trading him for
long-term is hard.
No, I agree. But that's why I say, if you know what you're getting with Anthony Simons, you're getting a very efficient point guard who's not good on defense, can definitely play make.
I don't think it matters.
I don't think it matters either, truthfully.
It definitely will matter, though.
Not necessarily
in the grand scheme of things.
So it will matter with Harden too, though.
But the Magic have so many guys that can rotate and switch and be great defenders still
too.
With it.
If Simons is going to be one of the 35 or 40 best players because of that shot creation, the way I just view it is James Harden would be a nice fit, but Simons would take their offense to a different level, especially.
What's a different level? What is he averaging in Orlando with Franz and Paolo playing with them?
24 and a half.
That's the number that came to my head also.
24 a night.
24
a night.
He can do that.
He would be. He will score more than Paolo.
No.
Okay. Probably a little bit less. It's less about, to me, how many points he averages. It's more about, has he opened up the game? And I think the range that he has, again, this is a guy that can make shots consistently from 30 feet, and he has the explosiveness to attack off the dribble. And with the physicality this team plays with, I just think it opens up the middle of the floor for Paolo as, again, a short roll decision maker. And I think for him to attack from the perimeter, it's almost limiting this team's half-court look. I like Simons initiating and creating advantages a whole lot more than a 36-year-old James Harden who's probably going to be banged up and is not going to have that same explosiveness or that first step he did just 2 years ago. I think he is disrespected at times. I'm just being real.
No, while show some goddamn respect.
There was comments
a little bit of both.
The season that Harden just had, the playoffs he just had. How would you show some respect?
I'm not disrespecting.
He's spitting some knowledge.
You got to say it about Kendrick, brother.
If you bring in Anthony Simons, it immediately opens up the court. Not saying that it wouldn't with James Harden. Obviously, he's still a great shooter in his own right. But understanding that
a couple of ways,
that the pressure that Paolo Banchero sees when he tries to get to the basket is terrible because of their lack of shooting. You bring in Anthony. I agree with you. You bring in Harden. He would also have success. But you can have Anthony there for multiple seasons and that potentially be a young duo.
Simons also hasn't had the keys to an offense for a full year either.
On a good team.
He would be a 1B on the offensive end. He'd be a perfect fit.
In your scenario, though, you'd rather Anthony Simons or Harden and Jonathan Isaac stay on the team.
That's fair. I need Jonathan Isaac.
Simons is a full decade younger than Harden.
You did want to trade Jonathan Isaac to get Anthony Simons. That's where you lost me.
You don't think that Harden could be a great mentor for Anthony Black?
Simons, to me, he's going to be a top 50 player if he goes to the right spot. What it really comes down to is, for a player that good, you have to give something that's worth the Blazers' while. And I don't think 2 mid-first round picks and Anthony Black's enough. So I say Isaac would probably
John Isaac might still not be enough.
Jonathan Isaac's still young. He's still a part of this young core for the 26. Magic.
I agree, but you do have to give something up.
The Blazers still gotta.
This isn't a Lakers mock trade where you can just throw some bullshit together and say, "Here you go."
That was unnecessary.
It's true though,
but John,
it's got to be an offer worth the other team's while.
But John, you think if you're the Blazers and the Magic call you and they're like, "We'll give you Anthony Black, Isaac, and 2 firsts for Simons," you're saying yes. For as high as you are on Simons, you just glazed him for 5 minutes straight. So you would accept that trade as the Blazers GM.
I want both those picks slightly protected.
That's tough, man. I couldn't do it. I could not get rid of Jonathan Isaac. No, if I'm the Blazers,
I'm talking about if you're the Blazers.
I'm doing it.
I don't know about that.
If I'm negotiating, I'm not going to include Isaac in my initial offer. But if the Blazers say, okay, we're going to trade Simons to Toronto instead, if you don't up your ante, up your ante.
But my question was that if you're
add a player like John Isaac, who else are you going to bring that's worth?
But John, I asked you if you're the Blazers GM and I call you and I send you the offer, you just talk to us about. You're accepting that as the Blazers GM with how high you are on Anthony Simons.
I know that in Portland, alongside Scoot, he's not going to realize his full potential. So yes,
2 first-round picks that might not be worth anything.
That's not true. That's not true. What do you think the Magic are going to be? A finals team?
But they're going to be a playoff team.
Yeah, they're going to be a playoff team.
So you're taking two first-round picks. You're taking two You're taking 2 first-round picks in the 20s. A point guard who has a rookie. Did not show that much, and it's an odd fit next to Scoot and Jonathan Isaac. Jonathan Isaac is the shining piece in that, but Jonathan Isaac is great when he is playing a role, not when he's playing on a bad team. And what is his value, really?
We've seen how the Blazers look with Anthony Simons as the one. You know, it's not a great situation.
It's not going to be no better with Anthony Black and Jonathan
Don't
Isaac.
disagree, but with multiple first-round picks and multiple draft classes, now we can start getting some wheels turning. If I'm the Blazers, I have Scoot Henderson. This is the guy that I'm going to try and build my future around. It's not going to be with Anthony Simons. It's Scoot Henderson.
If this was Fairytale Land, if this was Candyland, I'll say you're right. Anthony Simons on the Magic is great. But we talking about free agency. The Magic have the cap to go get Harden versus having to trade for Simons and the Blazers having to accept.
Correct.
I think I'm with John, though, because it's a young core that you would continue to be building on.
If you're Portland, your main goal is developing one Scoot and two Shane Sharp. And I think Anthony Black, again, would be a good third piece, a third guard in that puzzle, just as a connective safety.
And then you get Jonathan Isaac,
defensive
which
piece
is awesome.
With Jonathan Isaac.
Not for the Blazers.
Robert Williams finally gets healthy, and now Chauncey Billups can develop some structure on the defensive side. And the Blazers can take a slight step forward.
Rob Will and Jonathan Isaac?
I rock with that.
That's pretty firm.
Jeremy Grant is way better than Jonathan Isaac.
All right, listen, rapid fire because we got to get out of here. I'm just going to list players. You tell me where they're going. LeBron James.
He's staying in Los Angeles.
He's staying with the Lakers.
There's no way he goes anywhere else. Paul George.
Sixers.
He's going to Oklahoma City.
Okay. Pascal Siakam.
He's staying with the Pacers.
He's re-upping at the Pacers.
Okay, I'm with you. I agree. James Harden.
Orlando Magic. Orlando Magic, John.
James Harden's going to stay in Los Angeles.
I actually agree. I don't think he moves either. OG Anunoby.
The Knicks.
There's a slight chance he leaves, maybe Oklahoma City.
No way.
But I think he's going to stay in New York.
Yes. It should be a Knick. DeMar DeRozan.
I don't know. I don't know where he could go.
Who?
LA.
Respectfully, I say this in a very kind of way. I don't know who wants him as one of their three best players they're trying to contend. That's why I think he's staying in Chicago.
DeMar DeRozan still clutches sin, and he plays pretty decent
I'm
defense.
going to go with the Bulls.
All right. I honestly can see LA as a possibility.
Which team? Which LA team?
Oh, Lakers. Malik Monk.
Spurs or Pistons. I think the Pistons can pay him more money. I'm going with the Pistons. I think it goes to the Pistons.
Respect that.
Malik Monk's going to San Antonio.
I respect that. Nick Claxton.
I'll fuck with that. Nick Claxton. He's staying with the Nets.
Brooklyn's going to overpay him for like $100 million.
OKC makes this move and becomes the best team in basketball. Isaiah Hartenstein.
He's going to OKC.
Isaiah Hartenstein is the next best center, and he'll be staying with them.
I hope so.
IH is definitely someone that I don't know what can.
But you know that the Knicks, if they bring back OG and they bring back Hartenstein, they're now close to a second apron team.
Facts. But now you kind of have two contracts, not OG, but Hartenstein and maybe a Mitch that you can kind of consolidate for that bigger piece. Contracts you can aggregate.
If I'm the Lakers, I would rather Isaiah Hartenstein than any other player available. Obviously, if I can't get Nick Claxton, because they desperately need another big.
He can get up to six figures.
All right, and last name, Klay Thompson.
9. Excuse me.
Klay Thompson is staying with the Warriors on a team-friendly deal.
All right, I think if I had to say, I think Klay Thompson is an Orlando Magic.
Klay Thompson has too much pride to re-up for a small contract. He is going to Detroit because they're going to offer him the most money.
All righty, wrap it up.
And that's going to do it for our time on BR Stream. Drop your biggest take for NBA free agency. Thank you for watching or listening. We'll see you guys next time.